Hello everybody and welcome to the Disney Q&A. This is the series in which you all throw all manner of Disney questions my way, whether it's about the parks or the movies or the history, and I try to answer them to the best of my ability. Today's episode's special in that it might be a little bit shorter and it is very, very last minute. I'm actually flying out to California later today to go to Disneyland, and I didn't have a video planned for today originally. I have a little extra time. I thought, why not throw together a quick Q&A? So that's what we're doing. So let's dive right in. Our first question comes from Drummer Master, who asks, "Hey Rob, do you think Ellen's Energy Adventure is up for a refurb? If so, I was thinking redo all of the movie scenes and ask Ellen to come back, or maybe even Jimmy Kimmel. I was thinking also many kids sadly don't know Bill Nye, so why not ASAP Science, a YouTube science channel?" So this would be Jimmy Kimmel and ASAP Science Energy Adventure. What are your thoughts? My thoughts are that I definitely think the Universe of Energy needs a refurb. I think it's up for one. I grew up with Bill Nye the Science Guy. I feel like the answer, I'm not going to pretend that everybody knows who Bill Nye is, especially younger audiences, but I would say my answer would be like, well then let's have them know who Bill Nye is. Let's bring back a Bill Nye show, and not only bring back the old show, but create a new show. Let's make a Bill Nye YouTube channel. He's awesome. That said, I would be accepting of replacing them. I don't know about ASAP Science. I personally haven't seen that channel before. But I think you could get, you could get somebody. If we're going to go the YouTube route, I would say why not get Michael from Vsauce? He's a great, bucket of random information. And then, maybe Neil deGrasse Tyson. I think he's a great voice in the scientific community, in terms of getting people excited about science, particularly space, but I think science in general. But in general, yeah, I think we need a refurb. I think something to keep in mind is up until about 2004, this was sponsored by ExxonMobil. And, while normally I think sponsorship for an attraction is totally innocent and harmless and perfectly fine, to have an attraction based around the concept of energy and then have it sponsored by a very biased company like Exxon, which has an agenda, is not the best way to go about it. So now that it's independent, I would love to see a total refurbishment of the film, of the message, of everything that has a more, unbiased, rounded look at the future and present of energy. And I think getting new talent would totally involve part of that process. What I would love to hear from you guys is, who would you like to be in the new Energy Adventure? We have ASAP Science and Jimmy Kimmel. I'm thinking Neil deGrasse Tyson and Michael from Vsauce, but maybe there's somebody else you have in mind. Next question comes from Tomorrow Man 2037, who asks, "I was thinking about how Disney is a company that tries to keep moving forward, opening up new doors and doing new things, like taking old rides and changing the theme and creating new lands. I've noticed from going to Disney World each year that almost all of the music in the parks has been playing since the parks first opened. My question to you is, why do you think Disney changes all these things but keeps the same music created for the original parks?" So to clear something up, it's not the same music from since the parks have opened. Those have definitely changed. I mean, go back and listen to the Tomorrowland theme loop from, the early 90s. It's very different from the later 90s. They definitely do change them. It is a much longer span before they change them. I would say it's almost on par with an attraction, right? You think of most attractions that get replaced, they're usually decades old. The music is pretty similarly on par with that. Now, as to why, I'm not exactly sure. I think in the case of something like Hollywood Studios, where they use a lot of licensed music, I bet it's a legal and cost thing, because the legal loops of licensing music is just a massive headache for lawyers who it's their job. And then it probably becomes more complicated when you realize you're talking about music in a theme park rather than like for a commercial or a movie or something that's a limited run. So I think that plays into it. I think on top of that, anything original they do involves getting an orchestra, getting a writer. Writing an hour piece of music is not cheap, and then having an orchestra, play it and then recording it and mastering it, it isn't a small task, is what I'm saying. And I think budget-wise, I would imagine something like this, which, for us as fans, we hear it and we remember it and we have fond memories, but I think for the average guest, it's just a nice perk. I think that pushes it down the priority list a little bit, especially when you have expansions like Star Wars Land and Toy Story Land. All this expensive stuff happening now. But I can definitely assure you it does change. If you ever go to something like d-cot.com, it's basically like a Disney social network, but they have a really expansive jukebox with all this old Disney music, and you can hear the differences, and some of them are like really ancient. Next question comes from Walry, who asks, "Do you think that Disney should do more with the distribution rights to Studio Ghibli films? I mean, is it Ghibli or Ghibli? I never know. Besides plopping their logo on the Blu-rays and barely showcasing them in Disney World, there's only literally one small area in a shop with any merchandise. I imagine it would be in Japan. They don't seem to be doing much. I think they should advertise Ghibli a lot more. I am uber biased. What do you think? I've only recently been introduced to these films. Only last year did I see, My Neighbor Totoro and Spirited Away, and I love them. And I think they are very different from a typical Disney film, and I think that's awesome. And I think it's great that they put these movies out here so that I can buy it on DVD or Blu-ray. You'd be surprised it's not as easy as it sounds to get overseas. I would love to see them do more. I'd love to see a theme park ride or an area or anything like that. I think the fact, though, that it's not their company is a big factor in why you don't see that. Disney is a company that, as you can see over the past couple of years, they either, want to do it themselves or they're going to buy you outright so it's theirs and then they'll do something with it. That's why I think Pandora in Animal Kingdom is such a weird... It almost feels like it's a deal that they would have scrapped, but they're stuck in because it's so out of character for Bob Iger and how they've been running the company because they don't own that. But I guess the short answer is, yeah, I'd love to see more. I just don't think it'll be realistically possible, especially now that Miyazaki is retired and he was sort of, I think, the major name for that studio. Not to say that movies now that'll come out from them will be bad or anything, or that ones that he didn't do are bad. But I think, having him on board would have been a major selling point. But I would love to see that. I would love to see that. I mean, I mentioned in a previous revisiting, I would love to see My Neighbor Totoro in The Great Movie Ride. I think that'd be a cool scene, a cool movie to recreate. Our next question comes from Thomas Romano, who asks, is there any franchise you want to see be made into a Disney area of Disney or Universal? For example, Harry Potter section in Universal, where they recreated the world so it feels like you are on the set of the movie. I've always wanted to visit Halloween Town from Nightmare Before Christmas or Monstropolis from Monsters, Inc. Thanks and have a magical day. Well, I mean, in that other question, I, basically said I would love to see My Neighbor Totoro recreated in some form or another. I think I'm getting my dream, which is Star Wars land. I grew up, from 10 and younger even, watching Star Wars and loving that series and wanting to immerse myself into that world as much as possible through the books and the movies and the video games. And now to be able to do it in one new way where I'm actually there is really cool, and I'm excited to see what comes of it. But beyond that, I don't know. I guess Tomorrowland. I would love to see either part of Future World in Epcot or part of Tomorrowland in the Magic Kingdom sort of made to look like Tomorrowland from the movie. I think the movie was okay, but I think that's a cool world that I would love to explore. Our next question comes from the Gaming Pelican, who asks, are you excited to see the new independent film Walt Before Mickey? So there are, if you haven't heard, a couple of indie films that are unofficial that are biopics about Walt Disney before basically anything, Disney company related and Mickey Mouse related happened. Probably because legally that's the easiest they can get away with, because once you start getting Mickey Mouse into it, it becomes all legal shenanigans. You can't use the music, and it's just a mess. So there's Walt Before Mickey, which obviously implies that the movie's going to end right before he comes up with the idea of Mickey Mouse. And there's another one called As Dreamers Do. Similar idea. Both of these are very low-budget indie films. I haven't seen either yet. I actually just downloaded on iTunes As Dreamers Do, so I can watch it on the plane while I'm flying out to Disneyland. I'm going to watch it with Christine, and maybe we'll do like a quick review of it. There was Walt Before Mickey wasn't on there, but I would like to see that as well. That's got a couple of more known names in it. Particularly, I believe, what's his face? Napoleon Dynamite plays Roy Disney in that one. Here's the thing. I know they're probably not going to be good movies. They're independent. When you don't have the budget and you're doing a period film like that takes place in the past, it's going to not look great. The real question is going to be about how the story is portrayed. The one benefit of an unofficial or unsanctioned Disney biopic is that you can show the good with the bad. Look, Walt Disney was a great guy. He was no saint. A lot of the rumors about, some of the shadier parts of Walt Disney aren't really true, and you can trace back where these rumors started. But that said, he still wasn't like the perfect person. Nobody is. And there are a lot of aspects that I imagine an official Disney biopic would not cover, or they'd skim over. And the benefit is that these movies can cover them. And so the question is, will they do that? Will they do that accurately? Will they be fair to it? You know, I think sometimes you'll see an unofficial biopic that takes that too far and they just try to portray the negative because they can, and then you don't get an even picture. So there's going to be a lot to look forward to in these films. I'm interested in seeing how they turn out. I guess I'll let you know. Our next question comes from Sarah DeCousian, who says, my family is planning a trip to Disney and we're not sure when to plan it, during Halloween or Christmas. Wanted your thoughts on both seasons. So I've been there for both. More recently Halloween than Christmas. Christmas I was a little kid, I don't remember it as much. It's so much personal taste is going to go into it. I'm personally a fan of less overall redoing of the decorations. I love Disney in its just normal state. So like a lot of people will go, oh, you go in Christmas, it's all decorated for Christmas, and it's nice. It doesn't look bad or anything, but I'm more of a fan of it in just its regular state. So I lean towards Halloween. Also, Halloween has Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, and that has the parade, which I think is a great parade. You could go trick-or-treating, people dress up. I just think it's a lot more fun. Not to say Christmas is bad. I mean, Disney is one of those places where no matter when you go, you're going to have a good time because it's Disney. So I would lean towards Halloween, but this is another one for the comments. I would love everybody in the comments to weigh in on what they think the better time of year to go is, not just in terms of lines, I guess, or costs, but just like what the parks have to offer for those holidays, and maybe we could all help Sarah out. Our next question comes from MLJ1724, who asks, what is your favorite place in MC Magic and The Real Thing? The Real Thing has to be Tomorrowland or Future World. I love the future. I love sci-fi. And here's the thing, it's not a ride. It's just being in there. I've said in the past, and I mean it, I can go to Disney World for a day and not go on a single ride and still have the time of my life, just because I can hang out and just soak in the atmosphere and the music and the sights. And it's just, I like that theme. And there aren't a lot of places in the world today where you can go and get like thrown into like a retro sci-fi looking area. So I enjoy it a lot. As far as MC Magic, I find myself lately more impressed. Like, new Epcot's fantastic. The details are amazing. It looks beautiful. But I really like World Showcase in MC Magic because I feel like that's a part of the park that they give as much attention to as any other, but because it's World Showcase, I think a lot of the people there don't visit it very often compared to like the part with all the rides. So I like to go there and hang out. It's nice. It's usually empty. I like to take people around when we're like all hanging out on the server. And then finally this week, Louis Spazzali asks, when was your interest in Disney sparked and what sparked it? Interesting question. I won't go on like a whole long, the story of Rob. I'll say this. I grew up a Disney family. You know, my mom has a history of being a Disney family in that they always went to Disney World for vacation growing up. So just naturally, when she had a family, we always went to, you know, Disney World growing up. That was just a place I grew up going to. You know, some people have that lake house, you know, upstate somewhere, or they have a cabin that they go to every summer. But for us, it was just Disney. I mean, we didn't go every summer, but that was always the go-to place. And so I grew up with it. And so when everything in life changes, that was the one constant that was there for me, and always felt like home as a result. And it was a lot of fun, and it became a safe vacation. Safe in the sense that, you know, if I booked a vacation tomorrow to Japan, I'd be excited for it, but there's the very real chance I might not like it. And then I go through this whole vacation and I'm like, wow, I spent all that money and that time and I went somewhere I ultimately didn't like. And you grow from that, don't get me wrong. But with Disney, I'm going to Disney. I know I'm going to have a good time at Disney. It's reliable, I guess is the way I should put it. So between that is why I grew up with Disney and what sparked it. You know, it was always just sort of a passive part of my life. And then as I got older, I became more and more interested in the background of it. I became so impressed with the fact that Disney World essentially is run like a small country, and it took the construction of virtually a small country to make happen. And those stories are so rich, and as I read books about the creation of it, I just got more and more into it. It's the sort of history you're not going to find with like a Six Flags. You know, a Six Flags, it feels to me like it's a company going, all right, we're going to put a theme park here and let's check off all these boxes. But when you read stories about how Disney builds things, not to say that they're not a business and that they're not a company trying to make a profit, but there seems to be more heart to it all, especially the Walt era while he was still around. You know, to understand the history that Walt was building Disneyland against the wishes of his brother and against the advice of virtually everybody. You know, this was an untested idea and it worked. That's how you know for a fact that it was built out of passion and not out of profit. And I think Disney World has a lot of rich history to it as well, and just all of that has kept me interested in it. I know a lot of people don't like to learn about that stuff. It ruins the magic for them, and I can understand why, but for me, it enhances it because I get to go now and appreciate all of these cogs working together to create this amazing experience for people. And that is a whole new level of appreciation than when I just went and was like, oh, you know, I never understood, like, oh, the parks are so clean. You know, you don't realize how much hard work the CMs do to keep it clean. Or, you know, just things like how the rides are set up in a way that controls crowds. It's very impressive, and it keeps me interested in learning about it, and it's just something I've always loved. Anyway, I want to thank you all again. Just a quick plug for all of the social media stuff. Like I said, in just a couple of hours, I'm flying out to Disney. We're going to be tweeting it and Instagramming it and Periscoping it. So if you want to follow us, I'm Rob Plays on Twitter and on Periscope. I'm Rob Plays That Game on Instagram. Christine is Ivy Winter YT on Twitter and Periscope. She's probably going to be Periscoping a lot more than I am because I'm going to be recording. She's also Ivy Winter No YT for Instagram if you want to follow her there. Anyway, I hope you all have a fantastic weekend. Whatever you're doing, make the most of it because it makes it that much better. And I hope to see you all next time for the next Disney Q&A. I have to go pack my bags now.